The first time Seo Minyi saw his daughter smile, it wasn't for him. It was for a girl she'd never met, on a sidewalk he owned but never walked, in front of a school he paid too much for and still didn't trust. He saw it happen through tinted glass. The black Maybach sat half a block down from the ivory columns of St. Hilaria's Academy, engine low, wipers ticking, rain making the world outside smear into streaks of gray and neon. Inside, it was warm leather and silence, and a man who'd forgotten what to do with quiet. 3 minutes, his driver, Jin, murmured in Korean. The bell just went. Minyi barely nodded. He watched the procession of small navy blazers appear beyond the rain, children spilling out of the front gates in two loose streams, one to the buses, one to the waiting nannies and SUVs. His eyes tracked only one, Hana. 7 years old, dark hair cut in a blunt bob like her mother's had been, hands tucked into the pockets of her school coat, her tiny shoulders rounded like they were carrying more than a backpack. She walked beside the nanny without looking up. She never did, not at the other children, not at the sky, not at him, even when she knew his car was there. It had been that way since the kitchen, since the blood. Since his wife's last broken breath had rattled through their penthouse while Hana watched from the top of the stairs, the world changing shape in a way no child should have to understand. 18 months and she still hadn't said more than 3 words in a row. 18 months and he still didn't know how to reach her. He adjusted his cuff, the dragon tattoo on the back of his hand flexing, and told himself he was just here for security, not because he needed to see with his own eyes that she was still walking. The nanny's umbrella bobbed, crimson against the dreary afternoon. They were almost at the corner when a voice cut through the drizzle, low and warm and cracked at the edges. Baby, baby, don't you cry, the sun gone, chase these clouds goodbye. Hana stopped, just stopped. The nanny stumbled, nearly jerking her forward by the hand. Miss Hana, come, she said in halting English. It is cold. Hana wasn't listening. Her head had tilted, the smallest angle, toward the voice. Toward the street lamp at the edge of the block, where a young black woman in a torn denim jacket stood on the slick pavement, hood up against the rain, hands cupped around her mouth as she sang to no one and everyone at once. She couldn't have been more than 20. She wore cheap sneakers and threadbare gloves with the fingers cut off and a backpack that looked like it held everything she owned. Behind her, propped against the lamppost, a beat-up guitar case, its handle wrapped in duct tape. Her voice carried anyway, even over the hiss of tires and the distant blare of a siren. Hold on, child, just one more night, we gon' find a little bit of light. Her eyes were half closed, lashes beaded with rain like she was somewhere else entirely. Maybe inside the song, maybe in a memory that hurt less than the street did. Hana took a step toward her. In the car, Jin sucked in a breath. Boss, he said quietly. Wait, Seo Minyi said. He didn't recognize his own voice. It sounded younger. Hana slipped her fingers from the nanny's grasp. The older woman made a distressed sound and reached for her, but hesitated, glancing up the block toward the Maybach as if asking permission she hadn't been given. Hana walked 3 small steps closer to the singer, closer to the edge of the curb, closer to something he did not own. The rain had dampened her hair, her cheeks flushed pink in the cold. For the first time in a long time, her face wasn't blank. There was curiosity there, a kind of ache, and then like a flash of sun through cloud, it was there. The corner of her mouth lifted, not much, not the easy, wide grin she'd had at 3 when her mother would scoop her up from the bath and wrap her in a towel like a burrito and blow raspberries on her belly until they were both gasping. This was smaller, tentative, a smile testing its own shape on her face. In the back seat, Seo Minyi stopped breathing. Jin's hand tightened on the steering wheel. Do you? He began. I see it, Minyi said. The song trailed off. The homeless girl blinked, rain running down her temples. Her gaze found Hana, found that almost smile. Her own mouth curved slowly in response. Hey there, little lady, she said, her voice softer without melody, still warm. You like my terrible singing? For a heartbeat, nothing. Then Hana spoke. Yes, she said. Her voice was small and rusty, like a door hinge that hadn't been used. The nanny gasped. Jin choked. In the Maybach, power and money and 100 plans for the night ahead evaporated from Seo Minyi's mind, leaving only those 3 letters and the echo they made inside his chest. Yes, he was out of the car before he'd thought it through. The cold hit his face, slicing through the wool of his coat, bringing him fully back into his own body. His men slipped from shadows by doorways and car hoods instinctively, forming a quiet, loose perimeter around him. He barely saw them. All his attention tunneled to the small figure on the wet sidewalk and the young woman who'd conjured a word from her like a magic trick. Hana's back was to him. The nanny's eyes went wide when she saw him coming, her posture snapping straight. Chairman, she stammered in Korean. He raised a hand. The nanny fell silent. Hana turned at the sound of his steps. Her face shuddered the instant she recognized him. The almost smile vanished, her shoulders hunched. Her little hands flew back to the safety of her coat pockets. The connection he just watched spark between her and the stranger severed so fast it almost made a noise. It was like watching a plant slam back into its pot after daring to reach toward the light. He swallowed whatever that did to him. He had no room for hurt here, no time. He crouched, ignoring the way rain beaded on his trousers. Hanaya, he said softly, time to go home. She stared at his tie, at his shoes, anywhere but his eyes. Did not speak, did not nod. He felt the absence of her voice like a slap. Come, Miss Hana, the nanny said gently, taking her hand. Appa is here. She let herself be led away, not willingly, not joyfully, just resigned. She passed him without looking up. The space she left behind seemed colder. He stood. Only then did he meet the singer's gaze properly. Up close, she was all angles and stubbornness. Big brown eyes with dark circles underneath. Nose slightly crooked like it had been broken once and never set right. Lips chapped from the wind, curved into a tentative smile that somehow didn't apologize for existing. She was younger than he'd thought, older than any of the kids spilling out of the school behind her. How old are you? He heard himself ask. She blinked, her brows lifted. Rude, she said. There was a hint of a southern drawl in her voice. You some kind of detective? She added. He almost smiled. Just someone who noticed my daughter spoke to you, he said. I'd like to know who I owe. Oh, she echoed. He pulled his wallet from his coat, held out $100 bill. For the song, he said, for the smile. Her gaze dropped to the bill, then flicked back up to his face. Instead of reaching for it, she stuffed her hands deeper into the pockets of her jacket. It wasn't for you, she said mildly. It was for me. He frowned, thrown. You sang for yourself, he said, out here. In the rain, she agreed. Sometimes it's either sing or cry. One gets you more looks, the other just fogs up your face. He wasn't used to being deflected, not like this. Take it anyway, he said, a thread of insistence in his tone. It's cold. You shouldn't be out here without a coat. Her expression went flat. Men who offer money and warmth and point out the weather usually want company, she said. No offense, mister. Who are you again? CO, he said. Min Yi, Mr. CO, she said. Don't do whatever you're thinking. He stared at her. Then, to his own surprise, he laughed. It came out short and sharp, startling his men. Whatever I'm thinking is none of your business, he said, but you're wrong about what I want. Oh, she asked. I want your name, he said simply. She hesitated. Why, she asked. Because my daughter smiled because of you, he said. Because you pulled a word out of her I have not heard in a year. Because that matters. Something in her eyes shifted. There was pain there. And recognition, Nevi, she said finally. Like heaven backwards. My mama thought she was cute. Nevi, he repeated, tasting it. Hana climbed into the car without him. He didn't miss the way she glanced back through the rain-spotted window at Nevi, fingers pressed to the glass for half a heartbeat. Then the tint blotted her away. He slid the bill back into his wallet. Thank you, he said. Don't thank me yet, she replied. I'm not doing anything special. Kids like music. Pain likes company. That's just how it is. He walked away, got into the car. The door shut on the sound of her humming as she turned toward the next passerby who might throw a coin into her guitar case. In the back seat, the air felt suddenly too thin. She talked, Jin said, still a little stunned. Hana SSI, she said, yes. I heard, Seo Minyi said. His chest hurt in a way he couldn't blame on any past injury. Information, he told himself. This was just new data, a point on a chart. He needed to know why, he needed to know who, not because it meant something, because any variable he didn't understand was a weakness, especially one that made his daughter bend. Find out who she is, he said quietly. Already on it, Jin replied. In another life, Nevi Johnson might have had a different kind of audience. She might have been on a stage under hot lights instead of cold lamps. She might have belted ballads into microphones instead of humming lullabies for strangers. She might have had a mama in the front row, crying into a program. In this one, she had a sketchbook, a shelter cot, and a sidewalk. Her mother had overdosed when she was 10, head slumped into the sink of a public bathroom in Atlanta as Nevi sat on the cracked tile outside the stall, listening to the drip of a faucet and the far-off echo of mall music. The state had taken her in, spat her through 4 foster homes. She'd run away from the last one at 16 when the foster dad started standing too close and calling her grown. She defigured the streets where a devil she already knew. At 18, she'd followed a boy to New York. He lasted 3 months. The city had lasted longer. It was cruel and beautiful and indifferent to her existence in a way that felt familiar. She slept on trains when it was too cold to stay above ground, rode the line all the way from Inwood to Far Rockaway and back, humming under her breath while strangers pretended not to listen. She got a guitar from a church basement, left behind by some youth group long gone. She got her jacket from a donation box. She got food where she could, kindness where it was offered, and disrespect more often than both. Singing wasn't a career for her, it was a shield. A way to busy her mouth when it wanted to cry out about things it couldn't change. A way to remind herself and anyone who paused long enough to toss $1 in her case, that sound was one thing she could still make for herself. The day the little Korean girl stopped in front of her, Nevi had been somewhere else in her head. She'd been remembering her own mama's voice, deep and rough, singing old soul songs while she braided Nevi's hair on the couch, legs propped on a milk crate. She nearly missed the tiny shape at her feet, then she'd seen those eyes, big, flat, old in a way no child should be. Hey there, little lady, she'd said on impulse. You like my terrible singing? Yes, the girl had said. Her voice had sounded like someone shaking an old toy to see if it still worked. Nevi had felt something twist deep in her chest. Kids who carried that kind of quiet around like a coat, they were familiar to her. It was like looking into a mirror from a different angle. She wanted to kneel down, ask her 1,000 questions. Who hurt you? Who taught you to swallow whole words? Who told you your voice wasn't welcome? Before she could, a wall of black coats and hard faces approached. The father, you didn't have to know his name to feel what he was. The man radiated something heavy, money, danger, grief like heat off asphalt. She'd told him no to his money on instinct, not because she didn't need it. She needed it like she needed breath. But she'd spent enough of her life having people put strings on their kindness. She knew a hook when she saw it. She hadn't expected him to come back or to make her world shrink and open at once. The file arrived on Seo Min-yi's desk that night. Birth certificate, Atlanta, Georgia. Mother, Cheryl Johnson. Deceased. Father, unknown. Notes, multiple foster placements. Runaway, shelters. A shoplifting charge at 17 dismissed when the store owner didn't bother to show. Volunteer hours at a Harlem church soup kitchen. A handful of grainy security stills. Nevi laughing with another shelter resident, ladling soup, asleep on a train with her head against the window. No crew affiliations, no past ties to rival outfits. A nobody on paper. He closed the folder. 80% of his life was numbers, weights, roots, percentages, margins. Nevi would be a rounding error in his ledger, except she was because of Hana. How did you quantify the value of one smile after a year of silence? How did you price the moment he'd heard his daughter say yes and felt something unclench inside him he hadn't even known was in a fist? You didn't, you just moved. 2 men on her at all times, he said to Jin the next morning. Rotation, no colors, no suits, street clothes. They keep their distance unless there's a problem. Anybody bothers her, they dissuade him, quietly. You want bodyguards for a girl who sleeps on cardboard, Jin said, more baffled than judgmental. Yes, he replied. Hyung, we're stretched, Jin said carefully. Choi's been sniffing around the docks again. The judge's kid is about to get himself arrested if we don't. I know what we have, he cut in, sharper than intended. Find it. Pull off dice tables if you have to. Nobody's going to die because their blackjack table is unsupervised for one night. Jin's mouth twitched. He nodded. Yes, boss, he said. Anything else? Yes, he said. He glanced at the map on the wall. Red pins everywhere, blue ones in specific places. He reached for one of the blues, stuck it in the block where the school sat, where the coffee shop did, where the shelter took up half a floor of an old building that leaked in the rain. From now on, he said, this area is different. How different? Jin asked. No product, he said. No collections, no messages. No fights. We don't start and finish within 30 seconds. Anybody who thinks this is free territory finds out fast it is mine. We clear out anyone who doesn't belong. Jin stared. That much for a few blocks, he said. That's a lot of money. That's my daughter's walk to school, he said. That's a girl she likes. That's enough. Jin held up his hands. Understood, he said. He was quiet for a beat. You know, people will talk, he added. Say the dragon got soft, he smiled. Pleasant. I'll give them a demonstration they won't forget, he said. Soft is not the word they'll choose next time. The first time Nevi realized something was different, it was subtle. The corner by the school felt lighter, not because the sun came out. It was still overcast and miserable, like February always was. But the usual background noise, the guy hawking fake watches, the teenage boy whispering you good, to whoever paused too long, the bored cop pretending not to see, had shifted. The boy with the pills had moved 2 streets over. The cop lingered longer. The air carried fewer transactions she knew by sound. She still sang, partly because she needed the coins, partly because Hana kept stopping. Cloud song, the girl said one afternoon, tugging the nanny to a halt. Again, okay, little boss, Nevi said, strumming. Cloud song it is. She made one up, something about heavy skies and light hearts, about rain being like a hug from the sky. It was cheesy. Hana loved it. The girl's shoulders uncurled for the duration of the song. Her lips moved along with the words by the 3rd day. Her eyes softened. The nanny stopped looking at her watch and started humming too under her breath. One Thursday, as Hana twirled in a rare moment of uninhibited joy, Nevi felt a prickle on the back of her neck. She broke off mid-verse, lifted her head. A man in a bomber jacket was watching them from across the street. He wasn't old, late 20s, cap pulled low, hands in pockets. But it was the way he stood, too still, too relaxed, that set off alarm bells. Predator, not pervert. The difference was in the calm. He tilted his chin the slightest bit when her eyes met his. She narrowed her own. Miss Hana, it's cold, the nanny said anxiously, sensing the shift without knowing why. We must go inside now, Hana pouted. Again, she begged. Another day, Nevi said gently, nodding toward the building. Go warm up. We don't want to make your nose icier than it already is. Hana let herself be led away. She glanced back once. So did Nevi. The man in the bomber jacket was gone. Later that night, when she slid onto her usual steam grate bed near the shelter, a shadow detached itself from the deeper dark. Du Hyan, she recognized him now, the wrist breaker, the one who'd called the rich man his boss. Your corners are clear, he said. I noticed, she replied. Choi's guys came sniffing, he added. They left with a limp. Who's Choi? She asked. You don't want to know, he said. She already did. She opted not to push it. You got a message, she asked instead. From Hyung, he said. Mr. Seo, he says thank you. For what? She scoffed. I'm just out here yelling at air. His daughter sang today, Du Hyun said simply. He heard, her chest squeezed. Good, she said. She's got a nice tone. Somebody should hear it besides concrete. He hesitated. You know, coming near you like this puts you in his story, he said. Not just. Moment. I was already in his story, she said. The minute that car rolled up and he got out looking like a K-drama villain who knows people's home addresses. Du Hyun laughed outright. You're not wrong, he said, his face sobered. Be careful, he added. If Choi thinks you matter to Hyung, he will try to touch you to make a point. And your answer to that is to assign me a personal terminator, she asked. That doesn't exactly lower my profile. He shrugged. We walk a line, he said. Better we're your problem than he is. She pulled her jacket tighter. Yeah, well, she muttered. We'll see how long that line holds. The second time the little girl sought her out without a nanny's prompting, it was Sunday. School was closed, traffic lighter. The air carried a hint of thaw. Nevi was leaving the church kitchen, hands smelling like onions and dish soap, when she saw Hannah sitting on the front steps, legs swinging, Nanny beside her. Hannah, she said, surprised. What are you doing on my turf on a weekend? Hannah looked up. Small dimples appeared. Appa said we could come see where you sing on off days, she said shyly. Appa's inside, the nanny added. Meeting with Father Michael. Appa in a church, Nevi muttered. Must be snowing in hell. She sat beside Hannah. Want a tour, she asked. Not much to see, just a lot of people trying to survive on soup and grace. What's grace? Hannah asked. Nevi thought. A second chance you didn't pay for, she said at last. When you sing for me, Hannah asked. She blinked hard. Something like that, she said. From the church doorway, Father Michael watched them talk. Beside him, Seo Minyi shifted, hands folded. You brought her here, the priest said quietly. Yes, he said. You think this is a confessional? Father Michael asked. Or a contract? Both, he replied. You can't buy your way into heaven, Minyi, the priest said, but you know that. That's why you're here instead of at some fundraiser pretending this is charity. I'm not here for me, he said. I'm here for her, he nodded at Hannah. And for the girl making her laugh, he added. You can't buy her soul either, Father Michael said. I don't want her soul, he said. I want her alive. The priest looked at him for a long moment. You know what I see when I look at your men on that corner lately? He asked. I see boys who finally have to learn how to walk through a block without selling poison. That a problem for you, Father? He asked dryly. No, Father Michael said. It's refreshing, but it's also temporary if your enemies see it as weakness. They already do, he said, which is why I am here. He hesitated. I need you to spread word, he said, without names, without stories. Just remind your flock that the corner by the school, the coffee shop, the clinic, that those streets are safe for now. That if they need somewhere to walk at night without watching every shadow, they can start there. Father Michael blinked. Son, are you creating a sanctuary? He asked softly. I'm creating a perimeter, he replied. Don't romanticize it. The priest smiled faintly. God works with perimeters too, he said. He just calls them covenants. Seo Minyi didn't know what to do with that, so he focused on what he understood. Risk, reward, leverage. For months, he'd used violence to carve space. Now he was using absence of it to do the same. It confused his enemies. It confused his own men. It confused him most of all. But when he saw Nevi lead Hannah down the church steps and into a circle of kids drawing with chalk on the sidewalk, when he saw his daughter kneel and start sketching a cloud with a face on the concrete because Unnie had sung about it, something settled inside him. Maybe for once he didn't need to understand all the angles. Maybe it was enough to hold the line. The text came while Nevi was counting tips. 7 ones, 3 fives, 4 quarters, not bad for a Wednesday. She sat on her steam grate, letting the warmth creep up through the cardboard, and pulled out her phone. Unknown number. You sing pretty. Come sing for us. Then an address. Under it, $500 easy. Her fingers hovered. Her stomach rumbled. $500 could be 3 months in a room somewhere. Not a condo like the one he'd given her access to. A place that was hers. No strings, she typed back. Who's this? 3 dots. The reply, friends of your friend, the one in the coat. She went cold. She knew then. Choi, she deleted the thread. Another came 10 minutes later. We saw you with the girl. We saw him hit a van for you. We like cozy. Her hands shook. She didn't text back. She walked to the condo. Locked the door from the inside. Sat in the shower until the hot water ran out, letting the sting beat against her shoulders, trying to wash the feeling of eyes off her skin. The next day, she put the phone in front of Seo Min-yi without a word. They were in his office. Hannah was in the next room with her tutor. The skyline bled gray beyond the glass. He read the messages. His jaw set. Choi, he said. Your problem? She asked. Or mine? Ours, he said. I don't like that answer, she replied. It's the only true one, he said. He looked at her. At first they wanted to kill me, he said. Now they've realized there are easier ways to make me bleed. By going through people who make you feel things, she said. Got it. He didn't argue. What are you going to do? She asked. Shut it down, he said. Define it, she pressed. Every street between him and you, he said. And if he doesn't care about your lines, she asked. If this isn't about territory but about pride, then, he said softly, I remind him what pride costs. He moved fast, calls, meetings, orders. The next 48 hours were a blur of motion in corners of the city most people never saw. He had trucks parked for repairs at strategic intersections, blocking sightlines. He had a water main break 2 blocks from Choi's favorite bar, sending crews and cops into his personal space while leaving the blocks around the school untouched. He had his men shadow those he suspected were Choi's, then box them out, ushering them into dead ends where accidents happened, slipped discs, broken phones, suddenly missing keys. He wasn't gratuitously cruel. He was surgical. He knew how to send a message without paint the sidewalk red. He'd done enough of that. Surgical didn't mean safe. It just meant precise. He underestimated one thing, desperation. They came for her on a Wednesday. It always seemed to be Wednesdays lately, midweek. Flat light, Hannah had begged to go to the clinic. Unnie works there, she'd said. I want to see her other songs. The nanny had relented with the condition that her father send a driver. He had, black sedan, trusted man. Nevi had been at the clinic all afternoon, cleaning exam rooms to work off a small debt for a checkup she'd needed months ago when the coughing wouldn't stop. Now as the sun dipped, she walked out the glass front doors with Hana's small hand in hers, the girl chattering about a storybook she'd read in English class. The air smelled like thawing garbage and street meat. Appa's car, the nanny said, pointing ahead. The sedan idled at the curb. Beyond that, a white van, parked too close, too convenient. Hold up, Nevi said. Her grip tightened on Hana's hand. The side door of the van slid open. Now, a voice hissed from inside. A man in a mask lunged. Grabbed for Nevi's jacket, she shoved Hana backward toward the nanny. Run, she shouted. Hana froze. The nanny screamed. The man yanked. Nevi's jacket tore at the seams. She spun, elbow driving back on instinct. Connected with his jaw, he grunted. Another hand grabbed her wrist, gun barrel cold against her ribs. Get in, he snarled. Or the kid, he didn't finish. A shot cracked. The gun flew from his hand with a scream, fingers mangled. Du-Hyen stood by a parked car, pistol aimed low, eyes flat. The van's engine revved, tires screeching. The black sedan slammed into its side a second later, crumpling metal. The world tilted, people shouted, somebody filmed, somebody ran. The rear door of the sedan flew open. Seo Min-yi stepped out, blood on his brow from the airbag, eyes blazing. He didn't look at the van, not yet. He looked at Nevi. At the way she crouched over Hana, body curved like a shield. You hurt, he demanded. She shook her head, scraped, she gasped. He didn't, he was already moving. He stalked to the van, tore the driver's door open, dragged the man out by his collar. The guy was dazed, nose bleeding. He looked up, saw who held him, and went white. This is Choi, Min-yi asked in Korean. No, the man stuttered. No, I was just paid, he asked. The man nodded frantically. By who, he asked. I don't know his name, the man babbled. Tall, Korean, neck tattoo. Said you've been stepping on their corners, said teach you a lesson. I never, he shut down analysis. This wasn't the time. He shoved the man toward his own crew. Handle him, he said. No children, no visible bruises, just gone. His men nodded, faces hard. He turned back to his daughter. To Nevi, Hana's face was wet. She clung to both of them now, fingers white-knuckled in their coats. Appa, she sobbed. The word cracked something open in him that had been sealed since Min Jai's last breath. He knelt right there on the filthy sidewalk, ignoring the watching eyes. I'm here, he said, wrapping her up. I'm here, Hanaya, I got you. He pulled Nevi into the circle of his arms without thinking, felt her stiffen, relax. I'm okay, she muttered into his shoulder. It's fine, I've been grabbed worse. He went very, very still. When, he asked, voice flat. Before, she said, not your circus. It is now, he replied. She laughed, hysterical and sharp. Everything's your circus, she said. You just own more tents than most. Hana hiccuped. You hit the car, she whispered. Appa, you crashed. I'll buy another, he said. I cannot buy another you. The nanny hovered, wringing her hands. Jin arrived with another car, already on the phone with some connection at central booking, making sure the van driver would never see the inside of a courtroom. Later, the news would say there'd been a minor accident, no injuries, traffic diverted, a glitch in an otherwise unremarkable Wednesday. For the people on that sidewalk, nothing about it had been minor or forgettable. That night in the condo she still insisted was temporary. Nevi sat on the edge of the bed and shook. She wasn't cold. She wasn't hurt, not really. Her palms were raw where she'd caught herself. Her ribs ached from where the gun had pressed. But the worst of it was inside, the knowledge that she had nearly become a headline, or worse, collateral. She hadn't been the one he'd been after. Not really. She was a lever. A pressure point, a risk she'd stepped into the minute she let a man like Seo Min-yi put a key in her hand. He stood in the doorway, tie gone, shirt half unbuttoned, bandage on the side of his head where the airbag had kissed him. I am sorry, he said. She stared at him. You keep saying that, she said. What exactly are you apologizing for? Existing, driving, bringing your war to my sidewalk, or just having the bad luck to have enemies who don't know boundaries? All of it, he said. She laughed, a short, bitter sound. You can't own every bad thing that happens in this city, she said. I can if it happens on my streets, he replied. You don't own me, she said. I don't want to, he said quietly. I want you safe, there's a difference. Not from where I'm sitting, she shot back. He stepped into the room, stopped a respectful distance away. You saved my daughter, he said, twice now, once with a song, once with your body. I owe you more than safety, I owe you choice, she snorted. You keep using that word, she said. I don't think you know what it means. Teach me then, he said simply. 5 words, no bravado, no threat, just a man with more power than he should have, asking a homeless girl turned quasi-nanny to show him how not to swallow the people he cared about whole. She stared at him. Her heart kicked hard against her breastbone. She thought about Hana's small arms around her neck, about the way the girl had screamed her name when the van door opened. About the way that sound had peeled back layers in her own memory she'd thought were scar tissue now. Her mother's voice in that mall bathroom, her foster brother's voice in the dark telling her to be quiet, her own voice at 16 standing at the bus station clutching a thrifted duffel whispering, I'm leaving. You want me safe, she said slowly. Really, not just because I'm convenient therapy for your kid? Yes, he said. You want me near Hana, she asked. Yes, he said. Then you're going to have to give up more than a few corners, she said. More than some part-time tweaks. I'm not going to be your symbol, your good deed, your exception. If the streets around us are quiet, but you're still filling other streets with the same poison that killed my mother and kids like me, I'm not safe. Not really. Not in a way that lets me sleep. He swallowed. I am not a saint, he said. I cannot snap my fingers and turn this all into a church bake sale, but I can shift weight. Prove it, she said. How? He asked. Stop recruiting kids, she said. Pull your boys off high school blocks. Stop selling to people who look like they've never paid a bill in their life. Use your money to build something other than more locks. Fund this clinic, the shelter, the after-school program Father Michael's been begging for money for. You don't have to become a saint. Just stop acting like the devil's best regional manager. He laughed, startled. It faded quick. You think that's easy, he said. I think it's necessary, she replied. He looked at her for a long moment. He saw his life flash, not in the dramatic way people always said it did when they were about to die, but in the way a man saw every room he'd walked into and poisoned, every boy he'd handed a gun to, every mother he'd made tighten her arms around a child when he passed. No single act could scrub that, no list, no donation, but he could start adding weight to a different side of the scale, not for karma, for Hana, for Nevi. For himself, if he was honest. Okay, he said. She blinked. Okay, she repeated. Yes, he said, I will do what you ask. It will not be quick. It will not be clean. I will still be who I am, but less maybe, enough that you can sleep with both eyes closed some nights, enough that when Hana is older and asks what I did, I don't have to lie as much. She didn't trust how easy that sounded. Why, she asked. You saved what I thought was unsavable, he said. My daughter's laughter, my own hope. The least I can do is try to make the world you walk through less likely to chew you up. He met her eyes. And if I fail, he added, you walk, you take Hana if you want, you burn every secret I've ever given you at Choi's doorstep. You make the city better anyway without me, that's the deal. She searched his face. You know I will, she said. I'm counting on it, he replied. Change in his world never happened without blood. This time he tried to keep it minimal. He sat with his captains and said words none of them had expected from his mouth. No more new recruits under 21, he said. No scouting at playgrounds, no errands for kids who should be carrying backpacks, not bags. That's half our runners, one protested. Not anymore, he said. We pay men now, not boys. You sound like you're running a union, another sneered. Maybe I am, he said. He leaned forward. Listen, he said slowly. I have done terrible things, so have you. We live with them, we profit from them. We pretend the weight is worth the money, but I will not watch another generation grow up thinking the only way to survive is to crawl into my world. If you have a problem with that, there are other outfits who would be happy to have you. Take your chances with their bosses, see if their daughters smile for you. No one left, not that day. He redirected funds. He called the clinic's modest director and offered an anonymous donation through the foundation. He called the shelter and paid for a new boiler after years of watching Nevi come in shivering from bad heat. He called Father Michael and agreed to sponsor the after-school program with no signage, no name, no plaque. He did all of it quietly, not to be modest, to be real. Hana noticed some changes, not the money, the men, the way the scary boys on the corner disappeared, the way the man with the pills stopped hanging around the train station by the school, the way the shelter stopped smelling like mold. She also noticed the way Appa started coming home earlier, not always, but sometimes, the way he sat on the couch while she and Nevi sang instead of standing in the doorway like a ghost, the way he started laughing sometimes at silly songs about vegetables, the way his phone stayed on the table for whole hours without lighting up. One night, as she lay in bed, she whispered into the dark. Unnie, she said. Across the hall in the guest room, Nevi's muffled voice came sleepy. Yeah, flour, is Appa bad? Hana asked. The question sliced through the quiet. Nevi rolled onto her back, staring at the ceiling. Her heart pounded. Why you ask? She asked softly. He makes people scared, Hana said. At school, some kids say their parents don't like him, that he hurts people. He's done bad things, Nevi said carefully. He's hurt people. Some people deserve it. Some didn't. He can't take that back. So he is bad, Hana said. He's learning, Nevi said, what not to be. You know how you used to not talk. And now you talk a little? Yes, Hana said. You were never bad for not talking, Nevi said. You were just sad, scared, quiet. Now you're learning to talk again. I think your Appa's like that. He's loud in the wrong ways, learning different words now. Hana was quiet for a beat. He loves you, Nevi added. I know, Hana whispered. You love him, Nevi asked. Silence, then small, yes. Then you can help him, Nevi said. Like you helped me, we all learning together, yeah. Hana smiled into her pillow. Warmth curled in her chest. Yeah, she whispered, the city never really sleeps, it just changes who's awake. 3 a.m. was when the worst of it used to happen, deals, beatings, quiet disappearances. Lately on Hana's blocks, 3 a.m. was boring, cabs, late-night dog walkers, an occasional drunk couple arguing about pizza. In a small studio above the coffee shop, Nevi sat on the windowsill with her guitar, looking down at the street that had once been her bed. She strummed softly, humming a new tune. Behind her on the couch, Hana and her friend from the clinic slept tangled in a nest of blankets after a movie night. On the floor, a sketchbook lay open. On its page, in messy, endearing lines, Hana had drawn the three of them, her, Nevi, and her father, stick figures holding hands under a big, lopsided sun. She'd labeled them carefully in block letters. H-A-N-A, Unnie, A-P-P-A. Seo Min-yi saw it the next morning when he came to pick Hana up. He picked up the sketchbook, fingers brushing the drawing. His throat tightened. Appa, Hana said from the doorway, rubbing her eyes. You're early. I wanted to see your sleepover, he said, closing the book gently. Did you see? She asked, pointing at the page. I did, he said. Do you like it? She asked. He looked at her, at Nevi standing in the kitchen doorway with a mug of coffee, watching them. At first, he said, I was not sure I wanted to be on any page that wasn't a contract. She frowned. Huh, she said. He smiled. I like it very much, he said. He bent down, pressed a kiss to her forehead. She didn't flinch. He straightened, met Nevi's eyes over Hana's messy hair. Thank you. Her mouth quirked. You're welcome. The streets outside hummed. Violence still existed. Lines of powder still changed hands in clubs downtown. Deals still went down in warehouses by the river. Hadn't become a saint. He hadn't dismantled his empire completely. But there were fewer kids in his ledger now, fewer women, more clinics, more corners where men like him did not profit. He'd lost money. He'd lost respect from some of the harder mouths in town. He'd lost bits of the armor he'd once thought was the only thing keeping him alive. He degained a daughter's laughter, a girl's song, a chance. Months later, someone stuck a cheap, hand-drawn flyer on the clinic's bulletin board. Community night, it said, music, food, KIDS art, Friday 7 p.m., no logos, no sponsors, just dates and time. On Friday, the block was different. Lanterns strung along the sidewalk, plastic chairs set up, a makeshift stage, 2 pallets and a rug, parents, kids, elders, the clinic staff, Father Michael, shelter volunteers. And at the back, leaning casually against a lamppost with his men spread out like shadows, Seo Minyi. Nobody said his name, they didn't have to. Nevi stepped onto the stage with her guitar, Hana beside her. She swallowed, looking over the crowd. She said into the mic, self-conscious. Hi, I'm Nevi, this is Hana. Hana waved, small and brave. We're gonna do a little something we wrote, Nevi said. She glanced toward the lamppost. He gave the smallest nod. She smiled. This one's for anybody who ever thought the streets owned them, she said, and anybody who decided to own them back. She strummed. Hana sang the first line, voice clear. Sure, the block went quiet. People stopped talking, stopped checking their phones, listened. As a homeless girl who'd once used song as a shield turned it into a bridge. As a daughter who'd once lost her voice now lent it to others. As a man who'd once shut down streets for shipments now shut them down for safety. As a corner of a city more used to fear than joy soaked in something different. When the song ended, the applause was loud and messy. Hana beamed, ran off stage, straight into her father's arms. Appa, she giggled. Did you hear? I heard, he said, lifting her easily. You were perfect. Nevi hopped off the pallets, made her way through the crowd. People clapped her on the back, told her she had something. She shrugged, deflecting praise like she always did. At the edge of the group, she found him. He straightened. For once, he wasn't in a suit, just a dark sweater, jeans. He looked almost like an ordinary father at a school concert. You looked ridiculous nodding along, pretending you know anything about rhythm, she teased. He huffed. I know enough to recognize real, he said. Yeah, she asked. Yeah, he said. He hesitated. You did that, he added quietly, nodding at the street full of people unafraid to linger. This, them, her, me, she shook her head. We did that, she corrected. You shut down streets. I filled the quiet. She filled us both. He didn't argue. Nevi, he said. Yeah, she asked. For the first time in my life, he said slowly, as if testing the words for sharp edges, I don't just want to be feared, I want to be worth loving. That's on you. She rolled her eyes, blinking hard. No pressure, she said. He smiled, real this time. Pressure makes diamonds, he said, or cracks, we'll see. She bumped her shoulder against his. Newsflash, Mr. Dragon, she said. We're already shining. He looked down the block, at lanterns he'd ordered hung. At kids running without checking the shadows. At elders sitting in folding chairs, talking about recipes instead of robberies. At Father Michael laughing with Aaliyah over the punch bowl. At Jin trying to shuffle cards for some kids and losing badly. At his men relaxed. At his daughter perched on a stoop with 2 new friends braiding their hair. At a corner that had once been a transit point now being a neighborhood. He let himself feel it, all of it, the cost, the risk. The unfamiliar weight of something other than fear carrying him forward. Maybe it wouldn't last. Maybe tomorrow the news would break some story that made all of this look like a pause in a war, not a new chapter. But tonight in this space on these streets, he had done something he'd never thought possible. He made less room for harm, more for joy. He used the power he'd once spent on punishment to build a buffer around a child's smile and a girl's song. He shifted his danger away from them towards structures that could bear it better. He'd chosen over and over not to be the worst man in the room, and the room had changed. That was something, that was everything. As the crowd thinned and the lights dimmed and the clinic staff started stacking chairs, Nevi walked over to the corkboard just inside the clinic door, pulled a pen from behind her ear, wrote something on a sticky note, pressed it under a magnet shaped like a cloud. Hana tugged on her sleeve. What's it say? She asked. Nevi read it aloud, voice steady, eyes on Min Yi as he listened from the doorway with his arms folded, dragon tattoo visible on his wrist. When the scariest man in the city decides your smile is worth more than his power, she read, don't let him prove it by changing you. Make him prove it by changing the city. Hana grinned. Appa smiled back. And somewhere high above them, in rooms where deals used to be made, the future of those streets, their streets shifted just a little further toward something like redemption.